Here we are going to look at the block diagram of the client and server socket application we have developed. We have seen the code already. Now we are going to look at how it works, how the client and server communicate each other with the help of a block diagram. So we have seen the server code, which is this, and the client code, which is this into Visual Studio Code environment. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to look at the diagram of both of this together in a single sheet. Mostly this diagram is taken from this particular link. It's a very good article. A lot of details in this article. Feel free to go through it, although you may not understand a lot of things. In fact, the article pretty soon derails from basics, but something like here you can read and worth going till there. The article itself is taken code from the official Python documentation, but a good read if you have time. So this is the diagram we are going to focus on. Pretty much it is explaining the code in terms of client and server, the code we have seen. Now what I have done is I have copied this image and kept it in our Blackboard. So we have the Blackboard here with the same image. As you can see, we are pretty much describing the same code we have seen back in the Visual Studio Code. First, we are creating a socket object, and then we are doing bind, listen, and accept. This is the order of function calls we did inside the Python. So no surprise there. At least at this point in time, we are not planning to dig much deeper into these calls. In fact, accept is a call we will dig in future when we discuss IO completion ports and things like that. But otherwise, we are going to leave it exactly as it is. We are not going to dig much. What we are interested in is the flow of network traffic. Basically, this 4 lines we are talking here. Now, we have done the accept. Remember, I was telling the accept is a blocking call. So what is a blocking call? The blocking call is, if you're familiar with input in Python, there is equivalent for input in pretty much all the languages. Python is just another example. Input is a function which is a blocking call, and it waits for the user to input something and press enter. Accept is a similar call. It's a blocking call and it waits for something. What is it waiting for? Is it waiting for a user to press enter? No, it is waiting for a connect from a client. The client also has done pretty much similar things. In fact, if you look closer or dig deeper into the socket APIs, the client also does pretty much very similar thing. It doesn't do listen, but it creates internally a lot of other file objects, which kind of mimics all these steps. The main difference of client is this connect, which it is doing. So assuming that this part of the server is almost similar to this part of the client, what left is a connect call, which is coming to the server, a connect call. So why it is coming to the server? Why it is not the other way? Because it's a client who is sending data over the network to the server. The first packet of data is sent by the client, while server is waiting on accept. Now, once server receives that packet, there is something called three-way handshake happens between client and server. Send a packet, then server responds, then again the client also will respond. So we will see that in detail in the Wireshark session, which is coming up. But this connect is all about a three-way handshake. And when we talk about three-way handshake in the context of networking scenario, we are specifically talking about a protocol called TCP. We'll get into the details of TCP, but when we talk about three-way handshake, we are talking about TCP. Now again, in our code, we are sending further data after the handshake. We are sending further data to the server, and server is sending back data like so. And again, server is supposed to close the connection after everything is done. This part we are not doing in our code. We will do it. This closing part we are kind of doing till here. After that we are ignoring the stuff, all the closing ceremony of the socket. So there are a couple of packets sent back and forth, depends on how we are closing. We'll see that. But otherwise, this is the order of things which is happening. So the accept is receiving packets when we do connect. And then depends on the transfer. There'll be a lot more packets. Any number of packets can come here back and forth between client and server. And this whole thing is called a TCP connection. So this whole thing is called a TCP connection. So connection between client and server. A server like Google or Facebook or any web server or any TCP server can have multiple clients like this at the same time. We'll see how that happens in future, but for the time being, we can have multiple client connects to the same server which is listening on a particular port. So this is something which happens in your daily life. By the time you watch this video, there could be n number of TCP connections you have established between different hosts by now. So this is happening every time. When you access a web server, when you watch a video in Netflix, YouTube, doesn't matter. There'll be multiple TCP connections established. This handshake we are talking here. We'll see that in the Wireshark. Multiple TCP connections happening in this laptop when we do the next demo. I know you still have a lot of questions. Stay tuned. We will get into it one by one. So to conclude, we have seen the working of client and server using block diagram. Now let's start debugging the code and understand how it works. Using code. We have not seen the working in code, only block diagram we have seen. So next is we are going to run and look at the code, how the execution flows.